Against a background of the series of studies that Bill referred to on secularization of universities that began with religious foundations, I joined not only the Sycamore Project, but many others at Notre Dame and throughout the world, including good Protestants and practicing Jews, in wanting to learn from those studies and not simply letting Notre Dame follow the pattern. And then what can happen here? Consider this also. Along with a steady and steep decline of the percentage of faculty who are Catholics, there is the widely shared recognition that a large number of those who list themselves as Catholics are not inclined to be involved in any concerns about the religious character of this university. Robert Benny, a distinguished Lutheran ethicist and educator, spent some time here about 12 years ago and then featured Notre Dame in his book titled Quality with Soul: How 6 premier colleges and universities keep faith and their religious traditions. Benny thought Notre Dame was the one Catholic university where concern, efforts, and resources for its Catholic character were signs of a chance to succeed. In other words, the keeping of the light had a chance at Notre Dame. But Benny warned about the faculty situation, noting that among Notre Dame's Catholic faculty, only about 20% at most were engaged with or cared about the Catholic aspect of the university's mission. So it is increasingly the case today that a young person going through the critical and questioning formative years of an education at Notre Dame might not encounter a practicing Catholic, informed and engaged by the Catholic intellectual tradition. That curricular decisions and other decisions, including counseling decisions, will not be notably impacted by the Catholic perspective. One might say that beneath the large symbols of the university as a Catholic institution, there is reason for concern that the day-to-day struggles for learning and intellectual and professional development are not notably impacted by the Catholic tradition. Clearly, a diminishing number of committed Catholics on the faculty will affect the entire way the relation between faith and reason is understood and felt throughout the campus. Benny reported the observation of certain Catholics on the faculty, quote, that the administration is so aimed at prestige that it will not resist the secularizing tendencies in the departments. He adds, it is at this ground level of the departments that the future of Notre Dame is most uncertain. So it is difficult for the faculty in wielding its critical power in faculty recruitment and administrative appointments to take stewardship of the Catholic heritage of Notre Dame very seriously. For the most part, they do not want to be bothered. They often do feel threatened by talk about the responsibilities to the Catholic dimension of Notre Dame. Faculty on the whole see themselves as lead representatives of modern culture. To be markedly Catholic is thus to be countercultural. Who would want that tag? Not for oneself, but also not for the institution where one is employed. Back in 1964, Notre Dame appeared to me to be a place where vocation to teaching and learning in the Catholic tradition could be lived out. And related to that, it seemed to be a place where a family life in that tradition could be lived out. In losing a meaningful core course like the collegiate seminar, and lose it we did as faculty specialization grew and interest in such teaching diminished, we not only lost an opportunity to develop faculty community and exchange, in effect to nourish faculty intellectual growth in a way in which issues of faith played a role, but we missed an important way to engage all students in the classics of the Catholic literary and philosophical theological tradition. Now I fast forward to the present, or nearly the present. In a Jewish context a few years ago, The president of Barnard University, Judith Shapiro, properly observed, "One of the most precious resources any institution can have is a distinctive identity." The importance of the faculty to this identity was eloquently highlighted by our president, Father Jenkins, in his first address to the faculty in September 2006. There, Father Jenkins spoke as follows: "I am saying that high numbers of Catholic faculty members who are active in the faith are indispensable to this university if we are to be successful in fulfilling our mission. For this reason, we have sought and will continue to seek a preponderance of faculty at the university who are Catholic." So the understanding and commitment is clear. There needs to be follow-up policies and strong support from the fellows and trustees that will give life to that commitment in more faculty appointments of Catholics. What is needed is the same kind of follow-up that has been used in the appointment of women and minorities. Administrative surveillance in these respects has been welcomed by the faculty because these concerns, rather than the Catholic concern, are favored in academic communities. If there is to be dramatic improvement in the rate of hiring Catholic faculty, there needs to be surveillance of how Catholics are handled in applicant pools, where often a Catholic graduate degree or a Catholic topic of research has put an applicant at a disadvantage. And there needs to be a tightening of the interview process so that a candidate's response to Notre Dame's specific mission is explored by informed Catholics and others committed to that mission, and that response is weighed seriously in the equation of factors bearing on who will advance to appointment. The Sycamore Project draws attention to the critical nature of faculty appointments in this period, and that those appointments need attention beyond that provided by a faculty overall not concerned to make any special effort for Catholic appointments. Only if there is real leadership on this matter, leadership beyond words, can other fine words of Father Jenkins be realized. In his inaugural address, Father Jenkins famously said, "If we are afraid to be different from the world, how can we make a difference in the world?" Such words do highlight the need for an authentically and deeply Catholic university on the American scene. And I believe that has been and is Notre Dame's special calling. Thank you.
The Obama scandal was just a symptom of a much greater problem going on here at Notre Dame. But it has hopefully opened the eyes of those alumni who are simply ignorant or just unwilling to see things for what they were. My freshman year at Notre Dame, I drifted into confusion and moral relativism. I took anthropology, sociology, philosophy, etc., and they were all plagued by relativistic presuppositions which shaped my perception of the world. I did as any naive freshman would do. I attended the vagina monologues because I wanted to give it the benefit of the doubt. It was the open-minded thing to do. But I walked away feeling objectified and more confused than ever before, all in the name of ending violence against women. I will forever associate bright orange shirts with gay, fine by me shirts that took us by storm in the early battles. Some of the worst masses I attended featured hosts made of leavened bread by residents of a dorm and pillow pajama masses on Sunday night. By sophomore year, influenced by a friend who took advantage of the Intercollegiate Studies Institute, a conservative think tank, I began to see the light again. By this point, I was a declared program of liberal studies and art major. Ironically enough, it was the comment of an Orthodox Jewish professor who awakened in me my own Catholicism. When I had told him that all religions teach the same thing, he called me out on it in front of the entire class and said, "Arena, I'd rather you tell me that I am going to hell for being a Jew than for you to tell me that you and I believe the same thing." That was hard. My great books education was mixed. On one hand, I had professors who opened up the Greeks and scholastics for me, and for that education, I am utterly grateful. Studying great works of literature, philosophy, politics, poetry. There were others who tore away at the Bible using modern scriptural criticism. I walked away feeling like the Bible was just like any other book, ridden with problems and inconsistencies. Another professor used theology against itself to drive his liberal agendas. For me, the class was an exercise in trying to defend that which I was not equipped to defend. To me, the most dangerous education is when falsehood is presented as truth. In my art studio classes, I battled with a professor over the nature of Christian art. In the same breath that he criticized my Christian work, he praised another girl's work who had used printouts of pornography and a canvas collage. Overall, academically, I had a strong foundation in the liberal arts at Notre Dame. As an underclassman, I fumbled through trying to figure out which professors would teach the truth. It was my discourse with like-minded Catholic friends that guided me to the right professors. And I can say that by my upperclassmen years, I received the best Catholic education in the world. Socially at Notre Dame, I became more sure of my role in guiding others to find the Catholic beauty that I had discovered, and that took almost 2.5 years. My friend and I started a Catholic paper on campus to offset the biased observer. We co-founded the Orestes Brownson Council, where we discussed the intersection of Catholicism and secular culture. I started a theology of the body group through the Notre Dame Right to Life, and together with many dedicated officers, we revamped and restructured the organization and launched new initiatives. In my time, I also was able to be part of the first Eucharistic procession in 40 years. My story has a happy ending because I sought the truth and I was lucky enough to find it. What about all those who may not know exactly what they want or do not have the desire to seek it vigorously? For me, it was a battle between good and evil. It was a conscious effort, an act of the will, to immerse myself in Catholic culture where I could. But doesn't it make you sad that a naive student would have to go through so much effort to find truth at Notre Dame?
Thank you, Mr. Dempsey. Yeah, I guess it is kind of odd that my first alumni weekend would be my 3-week reunion. But here I am. Many were unaware or in denial about the state of things at this university, and so the Obama affair was understandably shocking for them. But as we go forward, we who love Notre Dame must view the whole affair in the proper light, not as a passing food poisoning, but as a terminal illness, one which began long ago. Mr. Dempsey and those at Project Sycamore, or I guess the Sycamore Trust, constantly remind us that for the university to be Catholic, the faculty must be committed to the Catholic mission. This doesn't mean that the entire faculty must be Catholics, but rather that everyone on the faculty should at least be on board with the Catholic intellectual mission, with the majority of them being Catholics themselves. But in recent decades, this has been in danger. Now, barely a majority of the faculty is Catholic in name. Barely a majority even checks the box. And forgive me for the repetitive nature of this, it's just so important. And as a student, or I suppose a recent alumnus, I ought not speak about the inner workings of the faculty debates. But I can tell you that a majority of the faculty at Notre Dame consider Catholicism a personal choice and something that should not bear on coursework or curriculum. This is something that, although I, along with Arena, have chosen courses and taken professors with people that, for whom this isn't true, the majority of my peers, largely their experience is the opposite. They have courses that are dominated by Catholicism as just another view. It's not given any kind of preferential place or any kind of organizing structure to the courses. So it is true. In fact, the Obama affair made this all the clearer. The majority of faculty think it's ridiculous that Catholic bishops, I think you have the list there, should concern themselves with what our university chooses to do or teach. All this is especially true among the younger faculty, and so the problem will only get much worse. Now, many claim that there are great things going on at Notre Dame that we should be proud of, and this is certainly true. As a student, I was involved with bringing back and expanding traditional Catholic devotions, such as the Eucharistic procession and the 40 hours devotion. And I'll be the first to defend these advances in the spiritual life on campus. But I'll also be the first to tell you that these are deceptive victories. Statues, masses, and prayer podcasts are all accidental to our Catholic mission. To boast that these advances make us a great Catholic university is to tout excellent medical care as the key to a strong military. Sure, the Army needs good hospitals, but the quality of medical care does not determine the success of an army. A military has another mission. Similarly, a Catholic university has a need for masses and chapels and Eucharistic processions. But to cite these as proof of our Catholic identity and to defend our Catholic identity is very wrong-headed. It is to be deceived by the strong-looking trunk, roots, and branches while being blind to the hollow core. Now, you might be asking yourself, is the tree dead or in the process of dying? I've gone back and forth on this question myself. I tend to hold, after, I have 3 weeks out from my commencement, I've had a much more positive, upon reflection, much more positive conclusion. I think there's hope, and I don't want you to get the wrong idea. There's hope. So I know this has been very bleak, but if we want to heal the oak and treat the disease, our only chance is to restore this Catholic faculty. We must pressure the administration to adopt Catholic hiring policies, well, not just on paper, but ones that actually work, and support those campus organizations like the Center for Ethics and Culture and the Jacques Maritain Center, which support a genuinely Catholic intellectual approach. Thirdly, we might wonder, again with Eddie Willers, whether our children should suffer to be exposed to such betrayal, or should be protected from it. Many families have sworn that they will not send their children to Notre Dame because of the Obama affair, and I think such an unqualified prohibition would be unwise. But in my experience, the particular danger at Notre Dame is not secularism, but lukewarmness. If your child or grandchild comes out of Notre Dame an atheist, they probably would have come out an atheist no matter where they went for school. The particular risk here is that your child will emerge as a lukewarm Catholic, as a man or woman who goes to Mass most of the time, but doesn't allow the Catholic faith to order or structure their lives. Students here learn how to sin without remorse, to give grave and public scandal, and yet consider themselves faithful Catholics. The reason for this is simply that the university itself and her leaders have stooped to this level of Catholicism. In many ways, a secular school would be much safer for a young man or woman in that at least there they would have to make a conscious choice to be faithful or not. Here, students are taught to have it both ways. Thus, Notre Dame is a very dangerous place for young souls. It is dangerous and it's a tough fight, but the virtues gained are worth it, both intellectual and moral. If you've raised your children to be conscientious Catholics, if they have a firm foundation in Catholic thought and practice before they come here, then they'll survive, and they'll be better for coming here, not to mention the help that Notre Dame would receive, and we need it. But if you want your children to receive that foundation here at college, I would ask you to think twice. The only foundation they'll receive in the Catholic faith here is one of sand. If you want your child to learn how to be a good Catholic, send them elsewhere. But if they're battle ready and you want them to learn how to be a hero, how to be a saint, send them here. Be assured that I love Notre Dame and am not happy to speak these words. But returning to that common man of Atlas Shrugged, as he mused on the great and hollow oak, I join my thoughts with his. It's the twilight, Eddie Willers thought. I hate the twilight.
Let me just say, the point of departure, in a way, for this discussion today has to be the discussion of the recent commencement affair. I'm not going to dwell on that. I think what it does is call to our attention again the sort of much larger crisis that all of our speakers have talked about today. And I think crisis is not too strong a word. I don't think, as some people said, that what happened during commencement spelled the end of Notre Dame as a great Catholic university. What it did do was bring the kind of questions which Bill Dempsey keeps before us all the time, and should keep before us all the time, to the fore again, and hence this conversation. What was, I suppose, for those of us on the faculty who were disturbed by the signal that the Obama invitation sent to the culture, what was most disturbing to us, and here I pick up on things that both Arena and John Butacci said, was the overwhelming support